Starting series, infinite sums. So we're going to want to find out if it converges or diverges. Many times we will not be able to find the sum, but a convergent sum means it does add up, even if I don't have the sum, and divergent means it doesn't add up. So let's first off talk about this test for divergence. Okay, I'm going to affectionately call it T4D. Test for divergence. So let's even just investigate the name for a moment. Test for divergence. It's testing to see if it's divergent. Oh, so look at what the results say. Then divergent, then nothing. Okay, so if it's a test for strep throat, then strep throat, then I don't know what you have. Then no result. Do another test, right? So test for divergent just test to see if it diverges. So you will never say convergent by test for divergence, because this test either says yes, divergent, or test doesn't tell you anything. Okay? All right. So when I have this sum, and a sum is a very different thing than a limit, right? So let's just make sure we're all on the same board. So a sum from n equals 0 to infinity of a sub n does not equal a limit as n goes to infinity of a sub n, right? A limit is very different than a sum. Sum means adds it all up. Limit means taking the limit and see what it converges to or goes towards, right? Okay, so this test for divergence is used on these sums, and sometimes it starts at 0, and sometimes it starts at 1. Okay, so what we do is we take the limit of the nth term. That's what this is called. If it doesn't equal 0, if it's not getting really small, then I know it diverges, because I'm going to be adding something on all the time. If the limit does equal 0, if the terms are getting small, means nothing. I don't know if it converges or diverges. Okay, so let's go do these. So converge or diverge is going to be the question that you'll be seeing. So to do the test for divergence, so we'll be doing many different tests. So I'm going to label it. Okay, I'm doing test for divergence. So limit as n goes to infinity of this, of the nth term. So I have 1 plus 0.2 to the n. Okay, so I'm going to take the n going to infinity here using that K limit theorem. This number here is smaller than 1, so this here to the nth power will give me 0. So I end up getting 1 over 1, right? So just 1. What does that mean? I'm doing test for divergence. It doesn't equal 0, so it diverges by T4D. Okay, so I want to get you in the habit for your own sake, because you're going to need to remember what test you're doing as you're going through the process. So you're going to do test for divergence. So to do test for divergence, you're taking the limit of the nth term. So now by taking highest powers, right, canceling the n's, you get 2/3. Since this doesn't equal 0, then you can say this diverges by test for divergence. So you have to say in the end what the test is that you get the converge or diverge by, and you have to say in the beginning or communicate to your reader what test you're doing. So we only have one test so far, but that's going to change. We're going to have lots of them. All right, test for divergence. So take the limit as n goes to infinity. And I'm going to rewrite this as 5 to the 1 over n, because that's what the nth root means, right? So make sure you got that straight. Lots of people make mistakes on this. So now what happens when I plug in infinity? So if I plug in infinity up here, I get 0. So 1 over 5 to the 0, that gives me 1. This doesn't equal 0, so this diverges by test for divergence. All right, so let's look at this one. I'm going to do test for divergence on it, because that's the only test I have. So I have 2 over the arctangent of 2n. If I put infinity in here, arctangent of 2 times infinity is infinity. Arctangent of infinity. You know that graph of arctangent, yes? So that gives me 2 over pi over 2. That's that horizontal asymptote there at pi over 2. So that's the same thing as saying 4 over pi. This doesn't equal 0, so therefore it diverges by T4D. Oh dear, my example 5 is the same as my example 1, isn't it? All right, so let's look at this one here. And I put this down here just to remind you about numbers to the nth power when I'm doing the limit. So if I'm taking the limit here of 2 to the 2n over 3 to the n, I want to see what number it is to the nth power. So I'm going to rewrite this as 4 to the n, and then I'm going to take the limit and think of it, I see it's 4/3 to the n. So that gets to me to this case, k is bigger than 1, 4/3 is bigger than 1. So this gives me an answer of infinity. Since that doesn't equal 0, this diverges by T4D.